And so
Yeah.
welcome everybody who's joining us on Instagram. It's always wonderful and exciting for me to see all the people pour in on our Instagram lives and your comments and your heart emojis. We really appreciate them, as well as our crew here joining us live on Zoom. If you're on Instagram, we want to let you know that we also have a live Zoom chat and board that we have during the podcast. And we welcome everybody to please join us on Zoom if you get the chance. The chat board here is a little more live and active. We're more easily able to respond to questions and comments here, and we'd love to be able to see your face. So please join us on Zoom. You can find that bhakticenter.org/online, and you can find the Zoom link there, or you can email us at prayerrevolution@bhakticenter.org, and we will hook you up. And this is the Prayer Revolution. We're here. We are ready to roll. Vira Doyal will lead us in a morning prayer. And then we will spend the next ensuing minutes just discussing what it means to, and whether it's in times of crisis, in times of joy, in times of confusion, in times of peace, to not forget that we are spiritual beings living in a material world. And if we're going to navigate this successfully, we got to remind ourselves at every moment that we're not alone, and that divine guidance will bring us further in the right direction than we ever could in our own mentality. Because my best thinking got me here, and it's not going to get me out. Ain't that the truth?
Beautiful, DJ. Yeah, love the intro. Love how you set the mood and set the tone. And I'm grateful to be with you guys. I'm with you 100,000%.
Beautiful.
And so those of us that haven't come in and prayed and connected with us in this way before, just take a moment right now. You can find a comfortable seat, and we are about to go into a practice of connecting our individual consciousness, our individual self, soul, with our beloved Lord, with divine consciousness, the source of everything that exists. So we are reconnecting individual self with the universal self, with our divine Lord. Many names, many forms, comes at many different times, many different traditions, one God, one divine source. And so connecting like that universally to that truth. You can find that comfortable seat, start to connect to your breath, and get into a space of receiving divine grace in our lives right now. You can put your palms together. That feels resonant, comfortable for you. Getting ready to receive. And I'll share a few words and just setting an intention for yourself right now, spiritually. What is it that you're seeking? How are you looking to reconnect in your life? How are you looking to be in the moments that follow? What is it that you're seeking? And knowing that as we pray together today, that we are watering that spiritual intention. We're nourishing that spiritual intention, and it will come to be. Come to be in our lives. My dear Lord, I don't want to just live for this life. I want to live for future generations. I want my life to be used to pave the pathway for others. I want my life to be used to help to bring spiritual wisdom, truth, love, compassion, your grace into the lives of others. Not just this lifetime, but for generations to come. Let me have that vision that I'm just a part of something so much bigger than myself, so much bigger than this one lifetime, and that my life can be dedicated to contributing to that big picture that brings joy, that brings life and light and love, spiritual connection with you, to so many people, the people that are right around me now and the people that will come after me in the future. Help me to have spiritual maturity. Help me to recognize that everything in my life is happening like a school of love. There's lessons that are coming into my life to help me to love unconditionally, to help me to move beyond the constructs of my ego that place so much conditioning on connecting with you spiritually and sharing your grace and sharing love with all the people that come through my path in my life. Help me to see that every moment is part of that bigger plan. Every single moment of my life is part of my soul's journey returning home. And that all of those feelings that I feel throughout my life, the tingling inside of my heart, the frustrations, the challenges, the joy, all those different feelings that I feel inside of my heart, that in some way my soul is calling out to reconnect with you. In some way, they're leading me back to you. Let's see this world as one beautiful school of love. And let's see all the experiences that we're having as opportunities for us to reconnect with you. Please give us the courage to see life in that way, to live our life day by day with that vision, seeing that you're with us always, that you're guiding us every step of the way. Let's bring your grace, let's bring your compassion, let's bring your love into every moment of our life that follows. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much, Vera.
Thank you, Barbara. Just
Appreciated it.
share a little
Grounding
from the
me,
heart.
keeping me connected.
Yeah,
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I was just imagining just kind of like a spiral, like the maybe the same prayers and the same words that they get richer and richer and have more meaning
Mm,
as life goes on. Just the simple kind of the simple basis of spiritual truth. That life is this designed plan for each of us individually to reawaken spiritually, that it's this
yeah.
incredible unique design plan for each and every one of us to reconnect spiritually and basically facilitating our journey toward our ultimate destination, our journey home,
Mm,
our journey back into an eternal loving relationship with the divine. And
yeah.
so just seeing that cyclical kind of nature of life and of prayer and of relationship and just of all the different elements of life, just seeing like, actually, yeah, let me be in this cycle. Let my prayer, even if I said the same prayer every single day, let it go deeper. If I
Mm,
have the same meditation each day, let it go deeper. If I have the same relationships, let them go deeper. Like,
yeah.
let me bring more of that God consciousness, that spiritual consciousness into my experience of life, and let it be a cycle. It doesn't have to be something new and
Mm,
this, every day got a new plan, a new dream, a new vision, a new this. Actually,
mm,
just to be in this cycle, to be in this process, and to to be able to go deeper in it. And
mm,
so
yeah. It's
that's what
beautiful.
I'm
People,
thinking.
people are loving it. Just sharing some of the love coming in. Our good friend Ananda in Marina was like, Vera, that was such a beautiful prayer. Our good friend Bob out in Philly area was saying, thank you. I needed that. You know what I mean? And on Sunday, I have a Sunday morning online Sangha group that I'm a part of. I'm a part of a few Sangha groups actually. This week, I'm realizing that my wife and I are launching two groups that we're doing. One is an intro to Bhakti group, and one is another community group. And so after this week, I'm going to be part of 5 groups.
Wow.
Yeah, Jeff, I got one with Jeff. I got one just on the Zoom board. I'm seeing I got Vivi on Sundays, Trisha I got on Mondays, Jeff I got on Fridays. So just I think everybody's keeping themselves busy. Um,
Mm.
but so one of the groups that I have on Sunday mornings, we were talking about there were 2 things that came up. Two people who are Bhakti yogi practitioners, and they were asking some questions, about like one was asking something about surrender, somebody else is about about feeling God's presence and will in your life, and they're all questions that we ask regularly. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And one person even said, it's like, I feel like, I should know this already in a sense, and it's like, the thing is, we do know it, but it's like we need to be reminded again and again. And not just reminded, but it's like we go out into the world and there's messages being put into our face every single day that it's like, it's kind of like erasing. Like we can come here, have a beautiful experience of prayer or connection, or go to a kirtan or read something. And then you go outside and it's like the world's got this big eraser and they're just like rubbing it out of your consciousness. You know, like what? You know what I mean? When you see a culture that's totally antithetical to some of what we're trying to pursue and do. And so it's like, wow, I got to continue to like put myself back into the like it's like I used to be when I was living as a monk, as a brahmachari, we would dye our own clothes, you know. And so sometimes you would have to like soak your clothes by white cloth and soak it in a bucket to get the dye, you know, to stick. And it's like the longer you let it sit, you know, in the bucket to really steep in the dye, the greater the dye would stick, you know. And so it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just like a little exposure to the dye and that's it, you know what I mean? And so it's not like a little exposure to spiritual life or spiritual knowledge. Like we have to continuously like, and then
Mm-hmm.
when you would wash it, you'd go and wash it, and so much of the dye would just kind of like just go out. And actually, like my friends who would have white cloth, they never would let me wash my clothes with them because they wouldn't want it because it would stain, it would bleed, you know. And so it's kind of like that. Like it's like that's what this morning podcast is for. It's like an opportunity for us to stick our head in the bucket that will get soaked up with the dye of Krishna's love, of spiritual energy. Because when we go back out into the world, it's just gonna bleach us dry. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so it's so easy, and it's like we just have to. It's like charging stations. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And so I think like even for us, for you and me, it's like we're not going to say this amazing new wonderful piece of spiritual information that like nobody's heard before. It's like, guess what, everybody, you're a spirit soul. Oh my god, I didn't know that. Whoa, you know, it's like, no, we know that, but it's like, how could I get enthused about that? You know, how could I remember that that's an exciting piece of information? You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's something that I should allow to guide my decisions in life. That's something that I should allow to change the direction of my life, you know. And it's like we need to remind ourselves of that. So it's like it's creating little containers, and that for us to be able to like put myself back in that bucket of dye, whether it's a tea steeping or your clothes in an orange dye or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, or a charging or a power station. It's just like, you know what I mean? Because otherwise, and I think that's what even this past week for me, I experienced that.
Mm.
I experienced that this week, and more people that I'm talking to, it's like it's getting to that wariness, experiencing the wariness
Mm-hmm.
of day-to-day life. And it's just like, oh, you know what I mean? And it's like a few days, you just kind of like let yourself go for a few days, and you're just like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, wow. And I was sharing this also, and should I stop talking? I've been talking a lot. You want to say something?
No, come on, man. I feel like my head is in the saffron dye bucket, and I'm getting
every
I'm getting that
every
spiritual
every now and
dye
then
in
I feel
my
like I gotta check
eyes.
myself. One of our first podcasts that we did, my wife pointed out, she's like, "You talk for like 6 minutes straight. Like, keep it to two. After 2 minutes, check in. Always check in after 2 or 3 minutes." So
How's everybody feeling? Let's see on Zoom. We loving what Doyle's sharing? Oh yeah, all right. That's what I'm talking about. Hook 'em, hook 'em. You got longhorns going over there, little cows coming. Everybody's feeling it. Go for it, DG.
okay, I'll finish this. I forgot what I was even. What was I saying?
You were talking about
Oh yeah. And so I was saying
okay,
how
you
like
got it.
like the wariness, like thank you, Casey, like the wariness of love. Oh, now my wife is saying I'm sorry, keep talking. And so the wariness that I sometimes experience, even myself, you know what I mean? It's uh, like, oh my, like, and you it's so easy to lose enthusiasm, and I question myself. It's like, we're teachers, we're guides, etc. Like, we're supposed to be leading the charge, and it's like it's still hard even for us. It's not like we're immune. We're all fellow travelers on this journey together. And what I shared in this group is that there used to be a sense of guilt that would drive some of my practice.
Hmm.
And sometimes that guilt can be a healthy thing, kind of to motivate to be better. But it used to just be like, oh, like I should be doing this. Like people are counting on me, or I
Hmm.
don't want to be a bad person, or I don't want to be a bad devotee, or I don't want to be rejected, or I just like, I feel out of integrity, therefore I should. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? Like if somebody were to ask me
Doing
if
it out of guilt and
doing
doing
it
it
out
out of
of guilt
shame.
or just
Yeah.
duty, you know what I mean? Or out of duty, like I should be doing this. This is what they told me to do, is to be a strong spiritual practice, or if I'm doing it. And what I'm starting to experience for myself specifically this week, and over the last in recent times in my life that I'm really appreciating is that if I fall out of alignment or integrity with my spiritual practice, or I let something go, I just start to feel it personally within myself. I don't like the way that I feel.
Mm,
And I know the person that I am when I'm connected to my spiritual practice, when I'm
mhm,
connected, when I have Krishna intimately involved in my life through
mm,
my chanting or through reading of sacred literature, specifically those two practices for me. And so it's becoming less of a like, oh, I need to do this or should do this, etc. But it's more of like, and I think we all need to get to that point. And somebody, a spiritual mentor of mine a long time ago said, like, we can't just be chanting our rounds or doing, because our teacher told us to do so. I mean, that's where it
mhm,
starts. But it gets to a point where it's just like, I want this, like, and not only like I need this because
mhm,
I'm so lost without it,
mhm.
and I
Yeah.
don't like the way I feel without it. And I don't
Mhm,
like the way my mind functions without it. And I know it's
mhm,
just a slippery slope back to a place I don't like being in my life. And so it's almost kind of like a healthy sense of like our friend Raghunath says, choose your addictions carefully. It's like a
mhm,
healthy sense of addiction of like, okay, I feel that. Whew, let me just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, wow. Whew, I feel good having that in my life.
mhm. Yeah, you got to have an experience of it, right? It's something like, I'm reading Fallen Upward right now, and Richard Rohr talks about the two halves of life,
Yeah.
and that it's like that first half of life is kind of, it's more like the should, and it's more like, oh, this is what other people are doing, and oh, this is a congregation, and these are the norms and the rituals and the practices of spiritual life, so I'm applying myself to those things, and it's being done as a more as an external kind of imposition. Even it's healthy, even it's actually something that's giving us structure so that we can move toward our heart. We can move toward a connection spiritually. We can move toward God. And at a certain point in our practice, it's like, okay, what am I doing that for? Right. And that's what I'm hearing you talk about right now is like, actually, who am I
Mm-hmm.
doing this for? Is there some other person? Is this some still kind of like ego trip
Mm.
that's going on right now? Like, I'm doing this because I should, and I'm doing this because I'm a good person if I do, and I'm a bad person if I don't? Or am I doing it actually because I believe that I want to develop
Mm.
this relationship? I know there's going to be the ups and the downs of the material world. There's going to be the stormy days, the beautiful sunshiny days, but like I recognize that there's value when I'm investing in
Mm.
this relationship. I see the transformation in my life. I see the way that I experience life and so much more of a fulfilling way, so much more of a connected way. I see that. I actually experience that. And that becomes a basis. Regardless of what's happening externally, I have that basis. I have that connection and that conviction in my heart. And that's what I'm hearing you share right now you know, is a little deeper of a why, a little deeper of why am I doing this, and that there's power behind that. There's power behind the questions. Why am I practicing spiritual life? If I'm sitting down day after day, I'm not asking that question, I'm not
Mm.
actually seeing the value that I've experienced from it. If I'm not actually recognizing that, I'm not seeing the transformation that's taking place in my life and the difference,
Yeah.
then it's going to be a weaker practice. It's going to be a weaker experience. We won't really give ourselves fully to it. We'll still keep our pleasures and our joys and our fulfillment in so many other things in our life. And really, we want to be in that stillness. We want to be in that silence. We want to be in that discomfort of life and still feel that connection, like
Yeah.
to still have to feel that space of actually, wow, I'm never alone. That's what we're craving so much. And
Yeah.
so I'm appreciating always you sharing, and you give me more insights into just being in my practice, like I think I do so much of spiritual life. It's so much of it is doing to get somewhere.
Mm.
It's like it's doing to get to this goal, down the road. And I'm recognizing more and more personally where it's really like inviting all of it in to my experience of connection with divinity right now, whatever I'm experiencing. whether it's the darker emotions, the guilts, the shames, the, feeling those depressive kind of moods, or it's feeling hopeful and a vision and a dream, that all of it,
Mm,
it's contained within that relationship. And
yeah.
we feel fulfillment and connection when we do bring it into that relationship.
Yeah,
We,
yeah, yeah.
so
I
I'm sharing a lot,
I
and a
love
little
it.
ethereal, but
No, I love it. However much you speak, it won't be as much as I blab. So you're doing good. You're
I'm trying to
always.
keep up. I'm trying to keep up. I'm going to do my part.
We should do a word count. Brent, could you do a word count for our podcast, please? Me and Vera to check who's, make sure that we're balanced out here. No, but I was thinking about how like from in my own journey of spiritual life, and also just there's a lot of great comments and questions coming into the Insta chat board and some on the Zoom chat. We may or may not be able to get to all of them, but we can note them, put them down, and maybe we'll get to them later today or another podcast. But please keep sending in your questions, your reflections, your thoughts in the chat boards. We appreciate receiving them. But I was thinking about in my own life, because like I was raised in a Roman Catholic family in Southern California, suburbs of LA, and tight knit family, and my mom's extended family, and nobody really goes everywhere. We just kind of like literally. I mean, like I'm growing. All my cousins now are becoming adults and having families, and literally what everybody does is just buy another house in the neighborhood and set up camp and just like take over like the block. You know what I mean? Like that's just what my family does. So for someone like me, becoming an adult at 18 to drop out of college and become a monk and move to another city and like not keep in touch and come for family things, it was like a big deal. And especially like this kind of like seemingly wild, far out Eastern, spiritual practice. But the question they would always just say, it was like, as long as you're happy, if it makes you happy. And what I found so frustrating about that sometimes over my life is that sometimes I wasn't happy. And it's like if I'm not happy in spiritual life to some extent, or finding that, it's almost becomes, it's like what we're doing makes no sense.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And it's like I almost have to make it a mission of mine to find some sort of deeper meaning and purpose and happiness in my spiritual life. Because if I don't, and it's not that like you got to be happy all the time, because there is purpose in the challenge. Like Viktor Frankl wrote that best-selling book, Man's Search for Meaning, and that it's purpose sometimes. It's not just pleasure and enjoyment, but it's purpose sometimes. And so, but if that purpose is just I was told to do this, as opposed to like I feel a sense of connection through this, it's going to be very difficult to sustain in the long run. Like the grit runs out at some point, and it has to translate to actually feeling a deep sense of personal fulfillment and happiness in my own life, and that I'm
mm,
doing this for myself. you
mm,
know I'm doing
mm,
this for myself because I'm genuinely seeing something, I'm seeing results.
mm,
And so it's I think it's almost like a gut check for me sometimes when I get in those moments. It's like, oh, I'm on a spiritual autopilot,
mm,
you know and life will knock me upside the head eventually if I cruise too long on a spiritual autopilot, because that's not a substance. That's not going to stay, because especially living in New York City. So I've been in phases, periods of time, or where it's you wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, skip breakfast, run outside the house, get on the subway. You're chanting some japa and doing some practice on the subway, just when there's other things going on, you're not focused, and you go and you're working all day doing this and that, do the same thing on the way home, get home super late because it's New York City, you don't get home till 9 or 10 o'clock, and then maybe you eat something and then go to bed and do it the next day. And it's like, you do that enough times, yeah, you're naturally going to ask, like, why am I doing this? Why am I squeezing in this, there, and there? Because this isn't spiritual life that I want to be leading. And so it's like, how can I, like, when that's happening, it's like, okay, pause. Like, let me see, what does it look like to have a fulfilling, nourishing spiritual practice that's going to actually like feed my soul in a way that's like, oh, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
mm,
This is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
mm,
Like, and if I don't know where that is, reach out to somebody else. Be like, hey, I need a nourishing spiritual experience. Where are you finding yours these days?
mm,
And
mm,
it's like, I think that becomes a responsibility in spiritual life, because if I'm not experiencing a sense of happiness and purpose, it'll be very difficult to sustain long term.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, DG. Yeah, coming back to the meaning, coming back to not just moving through life, yeah, actually ignoring what's being what the heart is calling for, what it's
Totally.
yearning for, you know.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get into that cycle of external validation. It's easy to place that outside of ourselves, where we get our validation and our sense of security and fulfillment and connection. It's just external, you know, and we're actually missing the connection with our soul and God. We're missing that connection in a real
Yeah.
way, in a
Totally.
tangible way that we can start to build upon. And I love Sonal Gore. She's asking a question, which is, you know, the practical element when we're talking about spiritual life. So many people are tuning in. I see, you know, so many new names kind of swipe by
Mm.
and on Instagram, and people want to know, like, what are we talking about specifically? What
Mm.
is spiritual life? Because we're talking about the philosophy of spiritual life, and that, you know, the belief and the premise that when we connect
Mm.
to God, that's the fulfillment that we're really seeking. Like that is the goal of our life, is to reconnect with God. And we're saying that all the fulfillment, joy, love, happiness comes from that connection. And so how do we connect? What's the practical way? And she's asking, so how does chanting help create a personal relationship with divine energy? Is it based on what we think when we chant? As you're asking, why does anyone do this, right?
Because I was told
And
to.
right, because you're told to.
That's
Yeah, yeah, you know, and I remember also, I remember, you know, growing up in a family of yogis, of bhakti yogis and practitioners, and I remember being told to chant. I remember that as well, and I remember when I was 20 years old, you know, really kind of asking myself that question, why? I asked myself, why do I chant? You know, what is it about this process and this practice that I've seen my parents doing for the last 20 years of my life? And just in a very kind of like a brief like nutshell, is that the Vedas, they reveal that in this age that we're in right now, that the easiest method, the easiest way that we can connect with God, with divinity, is through chanting of God's names. And there are unlimited names. There's so many names, so many different forms like that throughout time. But in that sincere mood of calling out, that it said that the name of the divine and the divine are non-different. All the qualities of the divine, all the personal relationship that we're seeking, all the universal energetic aspect, the knowledge, the wisdom, all the qualities that we're seeking, all the divine qualities, that they're contained within the name. And when we approach the names of the divine with that mood, that sincere mood of wanting to reconnect, wanting to feel that grace, wanting to be in that rapture, that it begins to awaken. It becomes a very real life experience and connection. As we bring that energy forward, as we bring that sincerity forward, then God, Krishna, the divine, is coming and walking rapidly toward us, is rewarding and reciprocating accordingly. And so why do we chant? Is we chant because this is a method of reconnecting. And why do we want to reconnect? Because we're like a little spark. We're like a little spark that's fallen outside of the beautiful fire of spiritual life, the beautiful fire of that rapturous connection with the divine. And when we chant and when we pray, we get back in that fire. We reignite that fire. We reconnect. We illuminate ourselves, and we begin to actually experience
Mm.
the nature of our soul. So
Mm.
that's just a little for so now. I hope that was helpful, and that yes, the mood, it's like a child, like a little baby. Vira is starting to talk more and more. And he's dun 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 dun. I'm like, I'm like, that's dada. He said dada. That's his first word, you know. And no one's ever called me dada, you know. But like, so, you know, he's just figuring it out. And you know, and he's calling out, right? He's calling out in the same way, you know, that we can, as little children, of the divine, that we call out with sincerity to connect. Like, that is the essence. I want to reconnect. I believe that I am a spirit soul. I believe that intrinsically my nature is illuminated, is compassionate, is full of love and grace, that I have that eternal connection. And that's what I'm seeking. We believe that like little children. I see all of our Zoomers right now, y'all a little bunch of babies, pat down feet, look like a little baby on there. Everyone's holding their mugs and cozying up on their couches. When we call out with that mood, that sincere mood, then we begin to experience that connection. So
So beautiful, Vera. Somebody wrote in that sense on the chat board. It says, "I feel low when I tell Paramatma, the Lord in the heart, I'll be right back." And so it's kind of like we put these be right back. You know what I mean? Like you go to like a reception or a store, and it's like be right back. Went somewhere, and it's like be right back. Went to search for enjoyment elsewhere. You know,
yeah,
we put that sign up there, and I think it's reclaiming. We all have a spiritual responsibility to reclaim our relationship with the divine, to reclaim that personal relationship. And I think that's the spiritual journey. And I think that's what you're talking about when we sit down to chant. It's I'm reclaiming that relationship. And so anyways, I love you, Vera. I love all you
Love you
guys.
too,
Thank
bro.
you so much all for tuning in. We're here every day. We love to hear from you. Please write to us if you have any questions, comments, reflections at prayerrevolution@bhakticenter.org or check out bhakticenter.org/online to catch our Zoom link where you can join us on Zoom every day. You can also check recordings of previous podcasts as well as the other podcasts that we offer at the Bhakti Center, as well as all our other offerings online that we try to offer to keep you nourished and engaged during this time. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow. And that's a wrap.
Love you, bro. So grateful to be with you guys this morning. Have a beautiful, empowered, prayer-filled day. Bring those spiritual intentions from the moment right now. What is your intention from getting off your couch to your next activity? Keep that intention there. Keep it alive. Bring it into every moment of your life. You guys are inspirations.
Thank you.